Hi, I am recording this because I will not see you in person until the 30th. And so I wanted to share your final project with you. Pretty excited about it. Excited to see what you guys come up with. So I am going to go over the scope of the project and then talk to you a little bit about how it is set up in Canvas so that you can turn it in. After I share this video with you all, I will go into your Canvas course for FYS and publish a module in the module section. The title of the module will be Final Project Submissions. It'll look just like this, what you're seeing on your screen right now. There will be an overview of the entire project, so kind of the scope of the project linked first, and then you'll see 5 different assignments for each part of the overall project. And then you will see a fifth project a fifth assignment where you won't actually upload anything, but I'll explain that to you in just a second. So if I go into the scope of the project, you will find a PDF document, and this is where it outlines what I'm asking you to do. So you've been hired to design a 30-minute session that will be part of a new student orientation for incoming freshmen and their parents. So your audience is those incoming freshmen and parents. The title of your session is Why Take FYS 1010? And your job is to convince the students and their parents of the value of the content and the importance of taking the course in their very first semester at Wayne State. So this will require you to highlight some of the content and really talk about the why behind the content. So allowing you to kind of identify some of the things that you really valued over the past semester from this class, or things that you learned about yourself or about being a college student as a result of some of the conversations that we've had. Special attention to our discussions on learning and memory and the impact that our body has on memory and brain functions and the evidence-based information that we talked about this semester. So you're going to do this in 4 parts. Each one of the parts that you need to create, you will upload separately into Canvas. It'll make it really easy for you to see kind of what you've done, what you haven't. And then there's a points assigned with each part as well. So I'm going to break down those 4 parts right now. So the first thing that you'll create is a presentation brief. And really this brief gives an overview of what the 30 minutes would look like. So it's a document that outlines, from the first to the 3rd minute, you are going to spend time introducing the session, talking about its purpose, and introducing yourself. And then from the 4th minute to the 6th minute, maybe you're setting up a video that you're going to play. And then from the 6th minute to the 8th minute, maybe you're debriefing that video, so on and so forth. I have included a very bare bones example of what a presentation brief might look like in the assignment where you'll upload the presentation brief, so you can kind of get an idea. Again, it's very bare bones though, so you should be taking that idea and expanding upon it. The second part of the assignment is for you to create some kind of visual aid. So this visual aid would likely be used during kind of a meatier part of the presentation where you really want to explain something to the audience. It could be a PowerPoint deck, it could be an infographic, it could be Prezi, I guess, right? And within that visual aid, you need to be talking about one thing from our study/exam strategies modules. So modules 1 through 5, where we talked about like building a block schedule and being very specific with your time, and the study cycle, which asks you to engage in pre-lecture prep and post-lecture review, and then the formula for success, where you test your comprehension, and then you create a tool for short frequent review. And then exam prep. And then there also needs to be a part of that visual aid where you touch on something that we talked about during the wellness and belonging modules, and that's modules 6 through 9. So you talked a lot about, or we talked a lot about, and you learned about the importance of social belonging. Why does that impact our ability to learn? And then we talked about those 8 dimensions of wellness and how we can take care of ourselves in a different way so that each of our 8 dimensions of wellness is being addressed when we're feeling kind of unbalanced, right? So the visual aid, you will address one concept and one kind of, example from each of those 2 groupings. The third part is a 30 to 45 second video. How and what you create this video about is kind of up to you. So if it were me, I'd be thinking about the 30 minutes in general, knowing that I have to create a 30 to 45-second video, a visual aid, and as you'll see in a second, an interactive activity. Where do I want those three things to fall within the 30 minutes? Maybe I want to open with a video. Maybe I want to open with an activity. Your 30 to 45-second video might be a testimonial, but you can do this kind of however you want. The only requirement that I have is that you will upload it and create it using Flip in Canvas. It's going to make grading it and access to grade it a lot easier for me, and I'll show you what that looks like when we get there. The fourth part is an interactive activity. So again, as part of this 30-minute presentation, you are going to design some kind of interactive exercise that all of the attendees would take part in during your presentation. Maybe you highlight the need or the effectiveness of a FYS strategy that we talked about. Coming to mind right off the top of the bat is the lesson that I taught with discussing the importance of context and how I had you read a passage and it didn't have any context. And then we talked about what it felt like to read that and how confusing and discombobulating it was. And then when I gave it a title and the context changed, you felt a lot more at ease about like your comfort level with the subject matter, so on and so forth. Your activity should have instructions, how to facilitate it, and an explanation behind kind of the why of the activity. What are you trying to get the audience to understand or do or realize as a result of engaging in that activity? And then if you have any handouts or materials that will be needed to help facilitate it, you should include those as well. Again, you will see a fifth assignment in Canvas, and that is where I will award you overall points for creativity, for all of the editing and proofing that you want to make sure that you do before you hit submit, and then the feasibility of your project. In other words, can I download your brief, your video, your visual aid, and your interactive activity, put it in a folder and walk it over to my friend Zach, who is the coordinator of orientation, to say, Zach, look at this. This is something that makes sense, that's going to be convincing, that actually displays or conveys the importance of the FYS curriculum, and it's done in 30 minutes. This is what my student did, right? So feasibility, how implementable, if that's even a word, is it, okay? Don't forget to keep the purpose and the audience in mind. Remember who you were at orientation, and I realize that your experience was a little bit different, but this is your opportunity to kind of put a spin on what you would have liked to see at that first year student orientation that you went to after you had come to campus for your WayMed Direct orientation. The why and your explanations for choosing the things that you've chosen to highlight is really, really important, because that's where I'm going to be able to identify whether or not you understood kind of the purpose of a lot of our assignments. Okay. So that's the scope of the project in the overview. Like I said, each of the parts is attached to a separate assignment in Canvas. So right here, you'll find the presentation brief, part 1. So I've got, again, kind of an overview of the project, the directions for the presentation brief. And like I said, I linked a sample in here. I'll show you what that looks like. So here I've broken down kind of 0 to 5 minutes, what I'm going to be doing. 5 to 8 minutes, watch a video. And like, if this were me turning this in, I would say, video about this, make sure that after the video is over, I go back and re-emphasize point A, point B, or point C for this reason, right? 8 to 15 minutes, I'm going to transition to the visual aid and then talk about going through the slides. I'm also probably going to make some notes about what I want to hit talking point wise on each of those slides. 18 to 25 minutes, I'm going to facilitate that activity. This is where I might link out to the activity instructions or something like that. Debrief and then wrap up and whatever. So this is, again, a very bare bones example of what a presentation brief might look like. Okay. You will upload it here as a file. And then you can see what I'm looking for in terms of grading here. So that you break down how the 30 minutes will be used in detail, that it should be really easy for me to pick up and, like, as a substitute teacher might walk into that room and make that activity, make that whole 30-minute session happen. So it should be in an understandable format. And then neatness. It shouldn't be all over the place. It shouldn't be, I shouldn't have to be like turning it sideways to figure out what's going on. So that is part 1. Part 2 is that visual aid. So again, kind of an overview here and the instructions. Again, this is going to be a file upload. So just kind of scrolling to the bottom so you can see what you'll be earning points on. So you definitely need to make sure that you're very, very clear about what concept or strategy you include and the why for both. And then how easy to follow, how professional looking is your visual aid? Is it all graphics and no words? To the point where it doesn't make sense? Or is it too wordy? Did you write down everything you wanted to say about each concept or strategy on that slide to the point where it's overwhelming, right? You need to find a balance there. Third is that video, the 30 to 45-second video. And as I mentioned previously, this will be uploaded in Flip. So what you're going to see, if you keep on scrolling down, is how it'll be graded. And this isn't an actual rubric here like it is in the other part, because you'll want to load Flip in a separate window. So when I click on this, it'll take me to Flip, and you will be able to, right here, click on the camera and submit a response to this group right here. Okay. And then part 4 is the interactive activity. Again, that's going to be a file upload for you. It might be multiple pages just because you're going to have the directions, the explanation about what it's supposed to do, kind of like the learning outcomes, and then any handouts or materials. If it's like a quiz, maybe you should probably include an answer key. And then here is how it's going to be graded. So you're looking for, or excuse me, I'm looking for the activity to reinforce something that is taught in FYS, that it's pretty easy to understand what they're doing. Remember, you've got 30 minutes. You cannot have this super in-depth activity that's going to take all of 30 minutes. Other things won't fit then, right? And then your explanation needs to be there. Again, emphasizing the why it was important, okay? And then the last assignment that you'll see in this module is, again, the overall impression module. You're not turning anything in here, okay? This is where, again, I am grading you on your creativity, on how polished your project looks as you turn it in, all 4 pieces, on how feasible it is to hand this over to our orientation coordinator, okay? So that is your final project. I am going to be available for questions if you need during class time this Wednesday as you are going through your asynchronous module, which means that you're gonna do it in real time and turn it in by 11:59 p.m. The same day. And then I will be in person the following week after, I'm sorry, not the 23rd, the 30th, for our last in-person meeting. So if you have any last minute questions, that would be a great place to ask. As always, if you have questions, email me. I'm happy to answer them, or we can set up a quick Teams meeting if I have time. We'll make sure that they get answered. Okay. Have a great week, since I won't necessarily see you, and we'll talk soon.